How many rematches have you fought?
0.
What do you have to do to create enough separation where this don't happen again?
Whew, it's a good question. It's going to be based on my training camp. I have to push myself a little harder if that didn't get me the win. And I have room. I definitely have room. I'm not going to lie, I have room.
You still feel like you're too small?
He was too small.
Dang.
You just calling a spade. No disrespect, no nothing. He was just too small.
The first face-off between Tank and Lamont Roach just wrapped with both feeling confident against each other. They kept it professional, but firm, both clearly ready for the rematch scheduled for August. Lamont Roach still insists that this time Davis will face a completely different fight. He believes adjustments from his camp will be enough to shift the outcome in his favor, and his focus in training has reflected that
of what's going on in Tank's camp and, you know, training with this person, training with that person.
Yeah.
Who has the edge heading into the rematch?
Neither one of them. Lamont, you know what? I'm lying. 55-45, Lamont.
Why?
Lamont got the edge because he already did the unexpected. He was supposed to get knocked out coming up from 130, and not only did he not get knocked out, he performed and possibly won the fight. That's what some people believe. I thought it was a very close fight. I think, but after you asked me that question, I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Thinking about it, yeah, Roach has kept most of his core team the same, including his father, Lamont Roach Sr., who continues to guide the camp. What's changed is the intensity. According to Roach's brother in the camp, Roach has increased his strength and conditioning work, added a new nutrition plan, and brought in additional sparring partners, some of whom are known for pressuring fighters and mimicking Davis's southpaw stance and explosiveness. Their goal is to completely take away Davis's timing and neutralize his counters. Roach is also working more rounds than before, increasing his output to prepare for faster pace. The plan this time isn't just to survive Davis's burst, but to meet them with volume and sharp counters. They've paid special attention to what they believe were lapses in judging during the first fight. Roach's team felt that some of the closer rounds were scored incorrectly, and they're not counting on the judges giving them anything for free this time. They're aiming for more control, more visible dominance per round. Roach has mentioned that he wants to leave no doubt, and that means staying active even in slower rounds, and staying off the ropes. Training has included more footwork drills and defensive angles to avoid getting pinned or caught waiting. Even though the commission upheld the original draw after Roach's team filed a protest over the non-call on the 9th round knockdown, the episode still hits hard in their preparation. It's pushed the team to prepare Roach mentally for dealing with any situation in the ring, whether clean or not. His camp doesn't want to rely on any interventions from officials and has been focused on staying in control at all times.
He got a lot of boos from that. A lot of people wasn't really feeling that. Do you feel like he'll fight better this next fight?
I think so, for sure. And, you know, you had mentioned that they've known each other since childhood.
Yeah.
So maybe that had something to do with that first fight. But now they've fought, they've gotten that experience out of the way. So I think we're going to see both of them a lot more live.
Way better, yeah.
Davis, meanwhile, has kept quiet publicly about the rematch. He hasn't confirmed who's leading his training camp this time. In the last fight, longtime coach Calvin Ford was present, but Barry Hunter played a more central role. There's been no confirmation yet whether Ford will take over again or if Hunter will remain in charge. However, footage and reports suggest that Davis has been back in the gym and working on the same core principles that have made him effective, timing counters and keeping his power sharp. Sources inside his circle say there has been an added emphasis on consistency and activity. Davis reportedly felt he gave up rounds by being too selective in the first fight and is working to throw more without giving up accuracy.
People just don't like Tank to a point where any little thing, just because he ain't knock him out, he probably feel as though that he lost and he didn't, or it was a draw. You know, I feel like Tank was doing a lot of smart things in the beginning, moving a little bit too much, but I feel like he was still like frustrating him and things like that. And I think Tank did a good job. Like, he looked sharp to me. And I don't know, people just be talking. You know, at the end of the day, you can't please everybody.
Were you surprised that Lamont was?
Davis's camp hasn't made major structural changes, but they are making small adjustments based on the last fight. They believe Roach was able to outwalk Davis in certain rounds, not because he was better, but because Davis didn't press the gas. They're focusing on keeping Davis more active across all 3 minutes of every round. He's also been drilling on ring generalship, and trying to stay out of moments where he's reacting to Roach instead of dictating the pace from their side. The message has been clear: the first fight wasn't Davis at his best, and they're not looking to repeat that version.
Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach, the rematch is on. Lamont Roach fought a perfect fight. Gervonta didn't look so great. In the rematch, Gervonta can do a lot more better. Roach can't. Gervonta may win this.
In interviews, Roach has stayed firm in his view that he can outbox Davis and take the belt outright. He's not backing off from that position, and his camp has backed that belief with the way they've structured this second run. They've gone back and watched every round of the first fight, slowing down the tape and picking out what they believe were openings that weren't fully exploited. Their goal this time is to throw combinations in those windows rather than single shots. Roach's father has said they want judges to see the difference clearly, and that the plan is to take control from the opening bell, not build into the fight.
Bothering him?
No, see, and that's the thing. If you look at the whole fight, he was never bothering his eyes before
you jabbed him.
Before I jabbed him. Even that right hand.
Pointed out that Davis's star power might have helped him get the benefit of the doubt in the first fight. This time, he's preparing to remove that factor by pushing a pace that makes it impossible to reward inactivity. Roach's sparring sessions have included more movement, a mix of angles and levels, and consistent pressure. His coach and father has also added more mental conditioning, using sports psychologists to help him stay focused round to round. They're treating this fight like one long test where every round has to be won clearly.
He's trying to please the fans possibly and take this fight versus Lamont Roach in a rematch. You know, is it even worth it to please the fans who are going to love you one minute, hate you the next? They're going to love him this minute, they're going to hate him next minute. Oh, I don't like it. He can fight Lamont Roach, and they're going to say, well, he's supposed to knock Lamont out if he does win. You know, or if he loses to Lamont, they're going to say, oh, we knew Lamont was better. It's just always is a never-ending story in regards to boxing. You can't just please the people.
Pointed out that Davis's star power might have helped him get the benefit of the doubt in the first fight. This time, he's preparing to remove that factor by pushing a pace that makes it impossible to reward inactivity. Roach's sparring sessions have included more movement, a mix of angles and levels, and consistent pressure. His coach and father has also added more mental conditioning, using sports psychologists to help him stay focused round to round. They're treating this fight like one long test where every round has to be won clearly.
The hardest punch I ever faced? No. And I ain't shitting on him or nothing like that. He can punch. But Jonathan Oquendo, he's from Puerto Rico. Bro, he got bricks in his hands, bro. I lie to you not. He punch hard. I ain't gonna lie. He a hard hit.
Tank's team hasn't addressed Roach's comments or complaints publicly. Davis has remained focused on training and avoided interviews for now. His team's focus seems to be on execution and not giving Roach anything to work with early on. They're preparing Davis to start faster and finish each round stronger. His last fight showed some vulnerability in his rhythm, and this camp is centered on tightening that up. There's no question that Davis still carries power that can change a fight quickly. Roach knows this, and that's part of why his team has doubled down on defense. They've spent a lot of this camp on protecting the body, using head movement off the line, and making sure Roach doesn't freeze after his own punches. They want him punching in 3s and 4s and not letting Davis set traps.
Like the betting me that he gonna knock me out and stuff like that. That didn't go too well for him.
Did y'all bet?
Oh, we bet, and we shook on it.
He paid up?
He changed his number.
Yeah,
Again, there's a high level of mutual respect for each other. Like I said, we done bumped into each other plenty of times. More than the average boxer would see another boxer outside of boxing.
The first fight wasn't a loss for either man, but the rematch will be treated like one has to take a clear step forward. Roach has been more vocal about what he thinks he can do differently, while Davis has stayed mostly silent, opting to train quietly. Roach's team believes this is their moment to take the belt. Davis's team believes they just need to do what they usually do, but do it earlier and more often. Training on both sides is focused, clean, and practical.
Gervonta had a bad night. I look for a tough fight in the next fight, but I still see Gervonta winning. I think Gervonta will win in a little easier this time. But Roach is a heck of a fighter. He's going to give everybody a hard, anybody that fights is going to give a hard time. But I do think that Davis had an off night.
I spoke to Eddie Hearn and he said he wanted to make the Shakur Tank fight straight away. Obviously now Tank's going into the rematch. That won't happen yet, but when it does happen, Eddie's still adamant that could happen this year or straight after the Roach.
Promise You 2 Clarissa Shields also shared her view, taking a more critical look at Davis's mental state. She argued that while Davis has all the tools, his frustration and emotional distractions have begun to leak into his performances. Her support of Roach wasn't just about tactics, it was based on her perception that Roach is more centered right now. Shields believes that the mental side of Davis' game has become an obstacle. She even suggested that therapy could help him process and channel his anger constructively rather than letting it interfere with his focus in the ring. In her view, Davis's current headspace isn't fully suited for the pressure of a high rematch, while Roach is building from a place of improvement.
I said both of them are great fighters, man. I mean, good fighters too, great fighters. Who gonna have the edge this time?
Yeah.
Not saying he gonna win though, but Lamont.
Why?
He would have weighed everybody saying that he won. He won the fight. You know what I mean? You know, and then that when he took that knee.
Many had expected Davis to win decisively, but the result, a majority draw, upended those assumptions. That alone has increased the stakes of the rematch. The 9th round moment where Davis took a knee that was not ruled a knockdown has continued to draw attention that single moment arguably prevented Roach from taking the win, and several voices in the sport have been vocal about.
You think the one coming up with
I
Tank
hope he don't fight Lamont, actually. Like, I hope he don't get in the ring with him again. Because at the end of the day, if he lose, it's just going to look bad on the fight with me. So it's going to look like somebody else already did it. I
You want Tank to knock you out, yo.
I ain't
I heard him say, like, yo, I want to fight Tank, and that's nice, but why do you want Tank to knock you out so bad? Like,
look, that sound good. That sound real good, but she's too little.
Too little.
I promise you.
Matchroom promoter Eddie here noted that the controversy has actually increased interest in the rematch, saying it's now much bigger than the first fight. Hearn expects Davis to be more engaged this time, but was quick to point out that Roach is a serious contender. He's not treating Roach's performance in the first fight as a one-off. Instead, Hearn seems to view Roach as someone capable of pushing Davis hard again, especially if Davis fails to correct the issues that led to the draw. Honestly, I thought I should have won without that being counted or knocked down. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe short out his eye, he had to wipe short out his eye. But the rules do state if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic. Ryan Garcia added to the conversation by emphasizing the mental shift Davis will need. Garcia believes Davis underestimated Roach in the first bout, assuming the fight would be over early and under control. When Roach didn't fool, Davis didn't respond with urgency, and that allowed Roach to rack up points through consistent work. Garcia doesn't expect Davis to make the same mistake twice. His prediction favors Davis, but only under the assumption that Davis will enter the ring with more urgency and respect for Roach's abilities.
I think it's going to be it's going to be a chess match. So I think Tank going to come in. I think his footwork is a little bit better than Roach. I think his movement, stuff like that, is a little bit better. So I think, if he, get Roach out of his rhythm, kind of get him off balance, Tank going to get him out of there. Not saying Tank can't knock him out now. Don't get it twisted now just because he didn't knock the dude out or whatever. No, don't think he can't. Like I said, I get Roach's props, man.
Happened, however, others like David Bendes are more direct in their criticism. Benvides expressed clear frustration with the way the first fight was handled. In particular, he pointed out that the 9th round moment should have been called a knockdown. In his view, that decision alone altered the outcome and unfairly helped Davis avoid a loss. Benz was also critical of Davis's public comments in the lead-up to the first fight, including his mentions of retirement and what some perceived as a lack of motivation. He feels Davis gave Roach too much respect and didn't enter the ring with the kind of intensity he's known for. According to Benz, this wasn't the same Gervonta Davis that fans had come to expect. He lacked the edge, the aggression, and the presence that usually define his performances.
If fight happened again, because I think that the next fight is going to be a whole lot better, and I think the next fight is going to end with somebody being on the canvas, in my opinion. But I think that Lamont Roach, I want to give a shout out to Lamont Roach for putting up such a amazing performance. We never seen anyone stand there toe-to-toe with Gervonta Tank Davis. We never seen anyone there throwing punches.
Joe Rogan in his podcast added even more weight to the idea that Roach should have been declared the winner. Rogan didn't sugarcoat his view, stating plainly that the draw was overly generous to Davis. His remarks reflected what many observers have been saying quietly, that Davis may have entered A stage in his career where he is no longer evolving as a fighter. Rogan framed it in broader terms, connecting it to the concept of athletic decline and the idea that every great fighter eventually hits a plateau. His tone wasn't dismissive, but rather observational. He sees the rematch as a key moment in Davis's trajectory. Either he reasserts himself as a dominant champion, or he confirms that his best years are already behind him.
I thought I should have won without that being counted a knockdown. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe sweat out his eye, he had to wipe sweat out his eye. But the rules do state, if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic 8 count.
All of this has elevated the rematch beyond a typical title defense for Roach. This is a chance to prove the first fight wasn't a fluke. He's building on a strong foundation and enters the rematch not with new confidence, but with proof that he belongs at this level. Reaction from so many respected names across boxing and combat sports has validated his performance. He isn't coming into August as a surprise anymore. He's seen as a real.
Foot out, you're gonna get in the ring and you're gonna have that moment where you know you gotta step it up and it just won't come. But I think
it was a surreal answer. Mayweather hasn't fought a real sanctioned opponent since 2017. He's done exhibition tours in Japan and Dubai, but nothing resembling a competitive return. And his fallout with Davis is well-documented. Financial disputes, ego clashes, and communication breakdowns turned what once seemed like a father-son bond into icy distance. So for Davis to call out Floyd, his former promoter and idol, was like tossing a match into a gasoline drum. Music. Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr., widely regarded as one of the most electrifying and gifted fighters in the history of the sport, has shared his candid take on the upcoming rematch that has the entire lightweight division and fans across the world buzzing. The rematch in question is the much-anticipated clash between two of the most explosive talents in the game today, the relentless Roach and the ever-dangerous Tank. In an interview with pro boxing fans, Jones didn't hold back on his thoughts about the matchup, offering praise and insight rooted in decades of experience inside the ring. Known for his speed, flair, and boxing IQ, Jones is not one to hand out compliments lightly. But when speaking about Roach, he was emphatic in his belief that the young fighter is capable of shocking the world yet again, just as he did in their first encounter.